Throughout the ages, hidden wisdom has been passed down, whispering truths about the nature of reality and our place within it. Among these are the 7 Hermetic Principles, ancient laws said to govern the universe itself, offering us a pathway to deeper understanding. But what if these principles are not confined to esoteric texts? What if, hidden in plain sight, they also resonate through the teachings of one of history's most revered spiritual figures, Jesus of Nazareth? In this exploration, we'll journey beyond the surface of traditional interpretations. We'll look at the words of Jesus, not just as moral lessons, but as reflections of universal laws, timeless truths that bridge the gap between the material and the divine. Could it be that the wisdom of Hermeticism and the message of Christ are, at their core, one and the same? Join us as we uncover the 7 Hermetic Principles according to Jesus. Hermeticism, a mystical tradition rooted in the teachings of Hermes Trismegistus, holds that the universe operates under 7 fundamental principles, guiding forces that influence everything from the movement of the stars to the thoughts in our minds. These principles serve as keys to understanding the cosmos and our role as spiritual beings navigating the physical realm. For centuries, seekers of wisdom have turned to Hermeticism for insight into the mysteries of existence. But while Hermeticism may seem esoteric, its themes are not unfamiliar. Nearly 2,000 years ago, in a small region of the Roman Empire, a teacher emerged, one who would forever alter the spiritual landscape. Jesus of Nazareth spoke of divine love, the nature of the soul, and the inner workings of the kingdom of heaven. His words captivated multitudes, offering profound wisdom wrapped in parables and metaphors. At first glance, these two traditions may seem distinct, one, a product of ancient Egypt and Greece, the other, born in the heart of Judea. But beneath the surface, they share an underlying harmony. Both point to universal truths, principles that transcend time, culture, and religious doctrine. Could it be that Jesus, in his own way, was expressing the same timeless laws that Hermeticism holds dear? In the teachings of Christ do we find echoes of Hermetic wisdom? As we delve deeper into the 7 Hermetic Principles, we'll explore their reflections in the words of Jesus and discover how these teachings converge on a path to higher understanding. The first of the 7 Hermetic Principles is mentalism, the idea that the all is mind, the universe is mental. In other words, everything that exists originates in consciousness. The physical world, the forces that govern it, and even our thoughts, are all expressions of a single, infinite mind. This principle tells us that reality, at its core, is shaped by perception, thought, and awareness. But long before this principle was written down, Jesus spoke of the power of the mind and heart. As it's written in Proverbs 23:7, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." A profound teaching that Jesus himself echoed. Here, we see the same concept. Our thoughts are not passive, they are creative forces that shape our reality. What we dwell upon in our minds determines who we become, and how we experience the world. Jesus repeatedly urged his followers to transform their inner world, emphasizing that true change begins within. His message was clear: the external world is a reflection of our internal state. This mirrors the Hermetic idea that the universe is mental, created by thought, intention, and belief. When Jesus said, "If you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can move mountains," Matthew 17:20, he was pointing to the power of belief, how the mind, aligned with divine purpose, can influence the material world. It is through focused thought and unwavering faith that we tap into the creative force of the universe. In this way, the teachings of Jesus are not just about moral guidance, they are about mastering the mind. Through faith, through focused intention, we unlock the true potential of our consciousness. As we think, so we become. The universe bends to the power of the mind. Mentalism teaches us that the mind is the root of all creation, and Jesus invites us to use this power wisely to align our thoughts with love, faith, and higher purpose. The second Hermetic principle is correspondence, As above, so below, as below, so above. This principle reveals the interconnectedness of all things, teaching us that the microcosm reflects the macrocosm, and the spiritual mirrors the physical. What happens in the heavens is mirrored on earth, and what occurs within us is reflected in the world around us. Jesus, too, spoke of this profound connection. In Luke 17:21, he declared, "The kingdom of God is within you." Here, Jesus is pointing to the same truth that Hermeticism teaches. The divine is not distant or separate from us. It exists within us, and the universe itself is a reflection of our inner world. The kingdom of heaven is not merely a place beyond the stars, but a state of being that we can access through spiritual awareness. Just as the Hermetic principle tells us that the higher realms reflect the lower, Jesus calls us to look within, to discover that the sacred and the eternal are present in our very being. When Jesus performed miracles, he demonstrated this principle of correspondence in action. His ability to heal the sick, calm the storm, and even raise the dead were not acts of defying nature, but aligning with it. Jesus knew that the laws of the spiritual realm of faith, intention, and divine power could be brought into harmony with the physical world. As above, so below was reflected in every act of love and healing he performed. Just as Jesus taught, what is within us affects the world around us. Our thoughts, emotions, and spiritual state ripple out, shaping the physical reality we experience. The divine blueprint of creation is embedded in every part of our existence, and through this principle, we are reminded that we are both creators and reflections of the universe. The principle of correspondence calls us to recognize that the outer world is a mirror of our inner state. Jesus invites us to look within, to cultivate the kingdom of heaven inside us, so that our external lives may come into harmony with the divine order. The third Hermetic principle is vibration. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. At the core of this principle is the understanding that everything in the universe, from the smallest particle to the largest star, is in constant motion. Even what appears solid is vibrating at the molecular level. This rhythm of energy flows through all of creation, shaping the fabric of reality. Jesus, too, understood the power of vibration. Though he didn't use this language, his actions and words reflect a deep awareness of energetic movement. When Jesus calmed the storm in Mark 4:39, he didn't just quiet the physical winds and waves, he brought harmony to the underlying energy. "Peace, be still," he said, and the chaotic vibrations of the storm fell into perfect stillness. His words carried a vibration strong enough to shift nature itself. Jesus' miracles were not merely acts of divine intervention but demonstrations of the principle that all things vibrate at different frequencies. When Jesus healed the sick, he raised their vibrational state. He understood that illness, pain, and suffering are manifestations of lower vibrations, and by infusing them with higher frequencies of love, compassion, and faith, he could restore balance and health. In John 11:43, when Jesus called Lazarus from the tomb, he used the power of his voice, his very words, to bring life back into a body that had ceased to move. "Lazarus, come forth." These were not just words, they were vibrations charged with divine energy, strong enough to reverse the ultimate low vibration, death. The principle of vibration tells us that our words, thoughts, and emotions are not idle. They are powerful forces that carry energy. Jesus demonstrated how faith, spoken intention, and focused thought can change the very fabric of reality. When he taught his followers that faith could move mountains, he was showing us that by aligning with the right frequency, through belief, love, and divine purpose, we can affect the world around us. The universe is alive with vibration, and Jesus calls us to attune ourselves to the higher frequencies of love, peace, and faith. When we do, we not only transform ourselves but also the world around us, participating in the divine rhythm of creation. The fourth Hermetic principle is polarity. Everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its pair of opposites. This principle teaches that opposites are not truly separate but are different degrees of the same thing. light and dark, hot and cold, joy and sorrow, all a part of the same continuum, existing only in relation to each other. Without one, the other could not be known. Jesus frequently spoke of these opposites and their deeper spiritual meaning. His teachings were filled with paradoxes that reflected the unity hidden within duality. In Matthew 20:16 he declared, "The last shall be first, and the first last." This is more than a moral lesson, it is an expression of the Hermetic principle of polarity. What seems like opposites, last and first, high and low, are part of the same divine cycle, constantly shifting and transforming into one another. Throughout his ministry, Jesus taught that humility leads to greatness, that life emerges from death, and that strength is found in weakness. These teachings are not contradictions, but insights into the truth of polarity. Just as light cannot exist without darkness, greatness cannot exist without the experience of humility. Jesus showed us that embracing the extremes of life, both the highs and the lows, leads to spiritual wholeness. In Luke 9:24, Jesus says, "For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for my sake will save it." This profound statement is another reflection of polarity. To truly live, one must embrace death, death of the ego, death of attachment to the material world. Through this sacrifice, we find true life, eternal and unshakable. The Hermetic principle of polarity reminds us that every experience, whether joyful or painful, contains its opposite. It is through embracing both sides of the spectrum that we find balance and transcend the illusion of separation. Jesus invited his followers to see beyond the surface of duality and to recognize the unity behind it. In the end, the opposites we encounter in life are not in conflict, they are in harmony, constantly flowing into one another as part of the divine plan. Jesus teaches us that to understand the fullness of life, we must accept both joy and suffering, strength and weakness, and in doing so, we rise above the polarities that seem to divide us. The fifth principle is the principle of rhythm. The tides ebb and flow, the sun rises and sets, and seasons transition in perfect harmony. In the natural world, rhythm is a constant, which teaches us that everything flows in and out, that cycles are an intrinsic part of life. Jesus, too, spoke of these rhythms. In his teachings he often referred to the divine timing of all things. To everything, there is a season, and a time for every purpose under heaven. Ecclesiastes 3:1. Just as the cycles of nature are unavoidable, Jesus recognized the rhythms of life and death, sowing and reaping. He understood that life itself is a constant motion, guided by divine timing. In the same way, his miracles reflected this flow, whether it was the calming of storms or the restoration of life. Jesus tapped into the natural rhythms of the universe. He understood the importance of moving in tune with the cycles set by the Creator. Jesus taught that just as life moves in cycles, we too experience highs and lows. But in the depths of every challenge there is the promise of a rise. His words echo this universal truth: weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Psalm 35. The principle of rhythm reminds us to trust in the divine timing of all things, understanding that every moment, every season, every rhythm is part of a larger, sacred cycle. Just as night follows day, so too does healing follow hardship, and growth follow loss. The sixth Hermetic principle is cause and effect. In the universe, nothing happens by chance. Every action has a reaction, every cause has its effect, which teaches that for every seed we plant, there is a harvest, whether for good or for ill. Jesus echoed this timeless wisdom when he said, "Whatever a man sows, that shall he also reap." Galatians 6:7. His teachings consistently pointed to the universal truth of consequences. He knew that our actions, words, and even thoughts ripple outward, affecting not only our own lives but the world around us. Through parables like the sower, Jesus emphasized the importance of intention and action. The seeds we sow, whether seeds of kindness, love, or selfishness, bear fruit in time. Just as the soil determines the fate of the seed, so too do our hearts shape the outcomes of our deeds. In every miracle, Jesus demonstrated this principle in action. His healing touch was more than physical. It was spiritual, sowing seeds of faith, hope and forgiveness. And the effects were transformative, not only for the individuals healed but for the entire community around them. Every thought, every word, every deed sets in motion a chain of events, often beyond what we can see or understand. Jesus taught us that our choices have both immediate and eternal consequences, shaping not just our lives but the spiritual fabric of the world. The principle of cause and effect reminds us to act with intention, understanding that the seeds we plant today, whether seeds of kindness or indifference, will inevitably bear fruit tomorrow. For with the measure you use, it will be measured back to you. Luke 6:38. As we follow Jesus' example, we learn that even the smallest act of goodness carries the power to change the world. Cause and effect is not just a law of nature, but a divine principle guiding our spiritual journey, urging us to live with purpose and intention. The seventh Hermetic principle is the principle of gender. The universe moves through a delicate balance of forces, both masculine and feminine. This is, which teaches that everything in creation carries both of these energies, each playing a vital role in the process of creation and renewal. In the teachings of Jesus, we see an understanding and respect for both masculine and feminine qualities. He honored both, not as opposites, but as complementary forces that work together in harmony. Jesus' interactions with women, such as his deep respect for Mary Magdalene, reflect a profound balance of these energies. Mary Magdalene was not merely a follower, but a vital part of his spiritual mission. In a time when women were often marginalized, Jesus elevated them, recognizing their divine role in the unfolding of God's plan. In her, we see the feminine energy of intuition, compassion and nurturing wisdom. Just as the sun provides life and the moon guides through the night, both masculine and feminine energies are necessary for balance in creation. Jesus understood this sacred dance, embodying both strength and tenderness, justice and mercy. His strength in challenging the corruption of the temple, and his gentleness in healing the broken-hearted, were not in conflict but in perfect harmony, reflecting the union of these divine principles. The Hermetic principle of gender reminds us that creation itself emerges from the interplay of masculine and feminine forces. In the same way, Jesus' teachings point to a divine balance that transcends gender, inviting us to embrace the wholeness of who we are. As we look to the heavens, we see this balance reflected in all things. In the spiritual journey, we are called to recognize both energies within ourselves, to embody the strength of the divine masculine and the nurturing wisdom of the divine feminine. Jesus showed us that the path to divine wisdom and creation is found in the union of these energies. The principle of gender is not about separation, but about unity, about coming together in perfect harmony to reflect the fullness of the Creator's design. As we've explored these ancient Hermetic principles, we've seen how they resonate deeply with the teachings of Jesus. Though separated by time and tradition, the wisdom of Hermeticism and the message of Christ share striking parallels, both pointing to a deeper understanding of the universe and our place within it. In reflecting on these truths, we are invited to apply them in our own lives. Can we embrace the rhythms and cycles of life, trusting in divine timing? Can we sow seeds of love and light, knowing that what we give will return to us in kind? And can we embody the balance of masculine and feminine energies, creating harmony in ourselves and in the world around us? Thank you for joining us on this journey through the 7 Hermetic Principles and their connection to the teachings of Jesus. If these insights have resonated with you, now is the perfect time to continue your exploration.